When Vance was asked about this, he defended that, saying we don't separate families, and his father was undocumented. So that's how the administration is telling their side of this story. But it beggars belief. A 5-year-old in immigration detention.
Yeah, it is time for the Trump dump. We go to the White House, Washington and beyond for the latest US politics stories of the day. Anita Powell, the US reporter, joins us. Anita, good evening.
Hi, Kate.
President Trump continues to make waves, this time at the World Economic Forum in Davos. Let's just give some of the highlights and then we can talk about perhaps domestic reaction. One of the big things that he said today that has upset a lot of people is that NATO troops stayed off the front lines in Afghanistan, despite troops being deployed by at least 7 other NATO countries, including the UK, who saw over 450 soldiers die in action. Trump's been speaking to Fox News about the US's relationship with the alliance.
NATO has very much been a one-way street. We actually paid, until I came along, we were paying for, I think we paid 100% the cost of NATO. They weren't paying and we were paying. We have hundreds of thousands of soldiers in Germany. We have 50,000 soldiers in other countries. We have a lot of soldiers, not only Europe and other places. And, you know, we want that to be reciprocal. We want to be liked and respected. So I've always said, and we get along very well with NATO, I think, but I've always said, will they be there if we ever needed them? And that's really the ultimate test.
Yeah, I mean...
You know, I've got to just jump in here.
Go on, please do.
Number one, the one time that NATO invoked Article 5 was in defense of the United States after September 11th. And then for the next 2 years, I spent much of my life with U.S. troops and NATO troops in Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, in all the theaters of combat. And I saw Italians, Polish troops, British troops, Australian troops, different troops from the coalition of the willing. Hearty participation by NATO troops. I don't know what the president is talking about. And these NATO troops were doing specialized jobs. They were doing difficult demining work. They were going to places that the Americans couldn't necessarily get to. So I don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, I mean, look, we heard from our defense editor earlier who had heard from from one former service member who said he'd actually carried an American soldier on his back for a period of time. I mean, that is how involved they were. And there is some debate here about whether our government will have to come out and condemn this mistruth out of respect, if nothing else, to those that have lost their lives. Right. Donald Trump's had a busy time. He launched his Board of Peace today, a body that he wants to rival the UN. That is the suggestion. Let's listen.
And now we have one of the most important meetings of all, the official formation of what is known as the Board of Peace. I want to thank the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, and Jared Kushner, and their extraordinary work. I mean, they have done an amazing job. We have peace in the Middle East. Nobody thought that was possible.
Donald Trump there. And members include Russia, Hungary and Saudi Arabia. Many Western allies, including the UK, haven't accepted Trump's invitation. Look, there's no doubt about it. Him stood next to a lot of world leaders showing his new Board of Peace looked quite impressive, I'm sure, to some. How does this play out domestically? Because there will be people in the States who say, look, you know, forget about trying to solve all these wars, as admirable as that might be. What about the price of my groceries? How does this play out, do you think? Is this provocation for those America First supporters?
I think you're right. There's a lot of debate among the MAGA base and the America First supporters about whether Trump's foreign adventures are really fulfilling his promises. But yeah, this isn't the main topic of conversation because Americans here are focused on affordability, but also what is happening on their own streets in Minneapolis and today also in Maine, in the capital of Maine, with immigration enforcement.
Yeah, let's move on to that. Vice President J.D. Vance will meet with immigration enforcement officers in Minneapolis today after agents announced a nearby church protest has led to arrests. Vance has been speaking from Minnesota in the past hour.
We have so much federal law enforcement resources here right now. We have so many people here that we do not want to have here. I do not want so many ICE officers in Minneapolis right now. I mean, good Lord, it's really, really freaking cold outside. But they're here not even to enforce immigration laws, but to protect the people from the rioters. That's an absurd state of affairs, and we wouldn't need it if we had a little bit more cooperation from the Minneapolis Police Department.
JD Vance there. There is this awful story of this 5-year-old boy seized by ICE agents. Just tell us a little bit about that and the comments of Vance today.
So, 5-year-old Liam Ramos was taken along with his father, who is, according to the authorities, undocumented, to a detention facility in Texas. As we said, he's 5 years old. He couldn't possibly have a criminal record. When Vance was asked about this, he defended that, saying we don't separate families, and his father was undocumented. So that's how the administration is telling their side of this story. But it beggars belief. A 5-year-old in immigration detention.
Yeah. Are those protests still ongoing? I mean, has the result of so many troops arriving there meant that they've reduced in number?
Yeah, I was just talking to contacts in Minneapolis earlier today about the scene on the ground, and this type of protest, people blowing whistles, neighborhood watch, what they're characterizing as peaceful, non-invasive protests is continuing and building. And the community, according to my contacts on the ground, are really pulling together. Of course, the vice president characterized these as hecklers, as people who were causing problems, but that's what I'm hearing from the ground.
And a quick word on the plane gifted to Donald Trump by the Qatari royal family. It's going to be part of the Air Force One fleet. It's going to be decorated in stars and stripes, I understand,
Cool.
delivered by this summer to the president.
Well, they're first going to have to check every nut and bolt in that plane for security reasons. So I don't know if he'll actually be able to take it for a spin immediately. I was really surprised that there was that incident with the Air Force One tail number 2900, because I've been on that plane, 40, 50 times. And
it meant that Trump was late to Davos.
Yeah. The professionalism of the Air Force crew is beyond reproach. So I'm sure if there was a valid electrical problem, they made the right call. But I'm just very surprised because, as I said, 50 flights on that plane, never an incident.
Ooh,
but
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for throwing that grenade into our show this evening. Anita Powell, US reporter, thank you for being with us. Always a great pleasure.